Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Spin This podcast where Aiden Clare and Sam Dow talk about music and all the things that are spinning around in the music industry and everything else that we can think of to discuss. Welcome to episode 1 of the Spin This podcast. I'm Sam.
And I'm Aiden.
And this is a sort of first attempt at our podcast, and we're going to talk about anything and everything relating to music and the music industry and music that we're working on, music that we like, and music that we can hear with our ears.
Before we get started, I actually just want to tell you a story. This is funny. Okay. So the other day, I was going out for a walk. This is not related to music at all, which is totally appropriate for the first episode of a podcast where we talk about music.
Fair enough.
I went out for a walk. I was walking down like a main street, and there was a crescent road, right? Which means that there are two like entry points to the side street, right? And I was crossing one of them. And in my mind, it seemed like there was no way that there was not a stop sign at that street. I had started crossing, and there was a car that was coming out of that side street, right? And as I was like, and he stopped, right? He was coming towards me, and he stopped it. But as I was looking over, I saw that there was actually no stop sign, and it wouldn't have mattered. None of this mattered at all. But like as I was looking over to see that there was no stop sign, I kind of like lifted my hand up like very timidly to like thank him for letting me cross the street. Yeah. And then I just like, continued to go. And then I just kind of like walked away as fast as possible, just so that anybody who was like, who witnessed that would forget my face as quickly as possible.
As needed.
Yeah, I like that story because it has like universal themes that we can all relate to.
I very much relate to that.
I have a lot of stories like that, and I'm just going to like put it right where it's like least appropriate.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I wanted to this is kind of like a cross between a self anecdote and a music industry anecdote.
Do it.
I've probably told you about this in the past, but so I'm looking at an article that came out last year. London bus driver moonlights as popular Punjabi singer.
You told me about this.
Yeah. So this guy, he's a bus driver. He drove the number 38 bus when that was a thing here in London, Ontario, which is the bus that I would take.
Yeah.
And I saw this guy like probably several times a week for the months leading up to this. Funny enough, I haven't really seen him that much since this article. I mean, the 38 bus doesn't exist anymore, but I don't know if he's still bus driving in general. But it talks about how he writes and records all these like Punjabi, I guess, style songs. I don't know the proper term of the music, but and he has all these music videos that go with it, where it's basically just like shots of downtown London, but like in this to this music that is the last thing you would think of with London, Ontario. But yeah, it was a pretty kick-ass creation that he made, and I always wanted to tell that guy like, oh man, I checked out your videos, you're pretty good at it, but I never saw him again.
Yeah,
maybe he stopped being a bus driver and became a full musician. Who knows?
Yeah, well, I mean, like London, Ontario is like has been the breeding ground for a lot of like unexpected success. You know, I found out recently the guy who created the show House was from London, Ontario.
Yeah. There's a lot of random people that are from London, Ontario.
Shad's from London, Ontario. The guy, I think he's hosting Q right now.
Who?
Shad's like
Chad.
Chad. The Chad, London, Ontario.
Another music-related person from London, Ontario, birthplace of Justin Bieber.
He'll come up at least like once every podcast, I'm sure.
I have a small anecdote about Justin Bieber. Well, it's a story from a girl I used to date. I've probably told it to you before, but
Yeah.
he grew up, and I think in St. Mary's or one of those
Stratford.
towns. Stratford,
Yeah.
yeah. And he went to the same school, I think elementary school, if not high school, as my ex-girlfriend. And there was like this winter wonderland formal dance type thing.
Mhm.
And Justin Bieber stole my ex-girlfriend's ticket for the dance. I think he got caught, and then she got her ticket back, and Justin Bieber didn't get to go to the dance.
But you know what? Justin Bieber has not grown as an individual since then.
He's still stealing high school tickets.
Yeah. No, that's the kind of behavior I would expect of 25-year-olds, grown ass adult Justin Bieber.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
For some reason, I always thought that he was younger than me, which is uncharacteristic because I always am surprised that a lot of these people are way younger than me. Like Billie Eilish, I was 18 years old, and I think she was 17 years old when she came out with the last album that won a ridiculous amount of Grammys. Well, it wasn't the album in particular; it was the songs and other things as well. But
Yeah.
man, when I was 17, I was I just remember we were the losers of high school. And then these people are making millions of dollars.
We barely won any Grammys.
Yeah. I only won 1 or 2, and that sucks. She won 5. That's not fair.
Yeah. Well, in my research for this episode, Post Malone, he's only, he was born 1995. So we're older than him.
Oh, yeah.
It's weird that the standard is when you're growing up, all these people that are famous or are musicians or actors and shit. It's now that they used to always be older than us, but now the majority they're gonna be the same age these as new ones crop up. But we're old. We're getting older. We're not old, but we haven't done as much. Not that it's a race, but I didn't, release any albums. I mean, I did. I never released to critical reception and all that.
This is a doomer podcast now. We're talking about how depressed we are that we didn't make it in the mainstream. But I don't know. I mean, for every hit person out there, there's a million people who are just never discovered ever in their lifetime.
That's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Also, it doesn't stop you from being depressed and shit. So.
Yeah, that's fair.
It doesn't I mean, I think there are probably enough people who have gotten to 27 and have killed themselves to justify the claim that it's it's kind of overrated.
Yeah.
But again, I guess that's kind of what they were aiming to do, right? They were looking to die young, so they achieved their goal. Really, is that?
I mean, it's it's kind of like a go out guns a-blazing kind of thing.
Yeah, if your life goal is to die, and if you achieve that goal, then that's pretty rad.
Yeah, my perpetual life goal is to die in 60 years. I've been saying that since I was 18, 17.
So now you want to die when you're 85 or just 60?
It's 60 years, so 85.
Okay.
Next year, my goal is live to 86.
Honestly, if I was in my 80s and I died, I think I'd probably be satisfied with that.
Yeah, it'd be you lived the whole life.
Yeah. It depends. That's why I feel a little less sad for artists and shit who die when they're nice and old, as opposed to artists who are cut short.
Yeah.
I still feel if Bowie hadn't died, I think he had liver cancer or something like that. I can't remember exactly what. But I feel if he hadn't died of cancer, he was still would probably have more good albums.
Yeah, I think he was it on his 69th birthday or around that age? He wasn't
Oh, never mind. That's pretty rad. I would die at 69.
I'm gonna look it up because I think it was, if not on his birthday, right around there, because that's when his album came out as well.
Yeah,
It was January
January
10th.
1st.
His,
Oh
his
yeah,
birthday was January 8th, and he was 69 years old. He'd been 69 for 2 days.
that's awesome. He
Which is pretty
definitely that definitely was not an accident.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he chose.
That's
He
just so
chose
people
to-
could could just be like, nice.
Yeah, it was a nice life.
Yeah,
He had
I
some
was
great
actually
albums.
pretty sad when he died though, because I feel like
Yeah,
I don't think his his later albums get I mean, with the exception of Black Star, because that was like a critically acclaimed album.
yeah,
I don't think a lot of his like later albums from like the 2000s, they're kind of like really kind of relegated to obscurity, but there's some like really good. There's one that he did in like 2003 that was just like way
Reality?
underrated.
reality one.
No, it's I'm gonna like
Heathen.
Heathen. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
That one was really good. So that was 2002. It looks like.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a lot of like it's almost like a good thing that I haven't listened to all of Bowie's albums, because there's still new albums that I can discover for the first time. Like I'm not as I don't think I've ever listened to Heathen. I'm not super familiar with Reality. I've listened to Next Day a handful of times, but I don't know it super well.
Yeah, the next day was pretty good. The next day was like more like classic, like glam rock almost. So
Yeah.
yeah, I dig that album. Like, but I remember when that came out. That was like first year university, and then that came
Yeah.
out. And then it was like the cover is basically like the Heroes cover, but it says the
Yeah.
next day.
Just for one day.
Yeah,
Then the next day. It was a good album. Good title.
solid.
Yeah. Yeah. So last year I listened to a lot of the album Scary Monsters and Super Creeps, because that was one that I just didn't know as well, but it was like right sort of in an era of some good albums. So I just like decided that that would be the next album that I would get into, and I probably listened to it like a couple dozen times during the summer last year. It's a good
Yeah,
album.
yeah, for sure.
It's not one that I think of. I mean, it's got like Ashes to Ashes, which is one of my more favorite songs of Bowie, but it's not one that I think of if I was going to name like a top 10. I couldn't even name half of his albums, to be honest, probably, because there's just so many.
Yeah,
But that's not one that would be at the top of my mind, but I think is a worthwhile album.
yeah. I don't think I've listened to that one, at least not from like start to finish. I definitely like the singles, like obviously Ashes to Ashes, and then Scary
Fashion is on that one.
Scary Monsters and Super Creeps, like the song itself, and then
Yeah. There's a good song called Teenage Wildlife that I like.
oh yeah, yeah.
And it's sort of bookended by It's No Game, part 1 and part 2. And that's like I really like those songs. They're really like a weird sort of I think there's like Japanese vocals or like a audio in one of the parts. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Cool track.
There's a lot of like Eastern influence in a lot of his music. Like there's I think it's an instrumental track off of Heroes called Moss Garden, and it sounds very kind of Japanese. I'm not sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't really done it like a lot of research into Japanese like musical theory and stuff like that, other than like they use like some form of the pentatonic scale, but with like another scale tone added. I can't remember exactly how it goes, but it sounds really like definitely influenced by like Japanese music.
I've made some discoveries in my my deep dive into pop music. So on Spotify, I just put on the playlist of the top 100 in Canada, but I imagine much of that's overlapping with what's hot in the States right now. Probably the biggest, I will say the most positive thing that I found from it is that Post Malone is like a proper good artist. Like I didn't know what his style of music was going into this. A couple weeks ago, or probably a month ago at this point, he did a live stream where he played a bunch of Nirvana songs, and it was like a fundraiser for the World Health Organization with all the COVID stuff. At the time of when I looked at the video yesterday, they'd raised like $5,300,000. And him and his band, I don't know if his musicians that were with him were from other groups. I wasn't really overly familiar with anyone other than I heard the name Post Malone before and knew what he looked like. But he can his vocals for, you know, that style and even sounding dead on to
he sold it really well. I was surprised by that, and I thought that was pretty good, because like you, I haven't listened to, like, I had not at the time listened to like a lot of Post Malone other than the stuff that was like you know, just on the, you know, top 40s and the stuff that was like played on the radio and shit. And so the but I would say that of his singles, he's made a lot better singles now than he had made like way back in like 2017, which was like you know, ordered like sushi from Japan and all that stuff. Like, you know, I was like, well, whatever, this is just run of the mill. But now he's making a lot of stuff that's like, you know, he's clearly developing as an artist and kind of like getting his own kind of like unique artistic style, and I like that.
So I listened to a bunch of his stuff in that top 100 playlist, and a lot of his stuff, his vocals are more like there's an amount of auto-tune that's being used. But when I heard the Nirvana live stream, like, he's definitely got the singing chops to do something a little more stripped down, for lack of a better term. But like, I can see him being a musician where within the next several years, as he does more and more stuff, he may it wouldn't surprise me if he did something that's a little more stripped down.
Well, I mean, I think that's an aesthetic that a lot of pop musicians are going to go for. Like, it's definitely like, it's one of the many emerging trends in pop music, and I'm sure we'll talk about it once we get to the like bangers and stinkers section. But like, that's a trend. There's also the 70s and 80s like revival trend that's going on, and that's a big one, because like everybody's doing it now, which is good, because it separates like people who can do it well, who can like appropriate sounds from the 80s without making it look too anachronistic, and those who are just like, you know, oh, here's the 70s and the 80s, like, don't you like this? Like, this is so cool, right? And it's like, sometimes my eyes kind of glaze over, and it's like, like so many artists like Bruno Mars and Mark Ronson have done this like to death, and like, you know, The Weeknd is doing it. Although I dig The Weeknd, by the way. I stan The Weeknd.
Yeah, I heard that's one of I don't know if we want to go into bangers and stinkers right now, but that was one of the bangers that I pre-selected. He had a song called "Blinding Lights," which I think came out a couple months ago, maybe at the end of 2019. And that was my first time hearing The Weeknd. In my research, I learned that The Weeknd is a person and not a band, which I don't know if that makes the name better or worse. Like, it reminds me of, like, I was not a fan of The Edge from U2. And knowing that this person is The Weeknd, I thought The Weeknd was a band, but also on the other hand, The Weeknd being, I assume, one creative force behind the production of this rather than it being a band, kind of does give it another amount of cred, as it were.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, he's collaborated. I mean, I'm sure he has, like, you know, there's like, probably like
I don't
17
expect him
producer
playing
credits.
every instrument or anything, but him being, I guess, better, like almost like Bowie. Like, I don't really think of Bowie's bands or musicians working with them. I picture Bowie being the artist of his own stuff.
Yeah.
And, like, I thought The Weeknd was a band. Even listening to that song, I didn't realize that he is a persona, I guess.
Yeah. Well, The Weeknd's always been one guy, and he's actually a Canadian fellow, and he's definitely like shown quite a bit of like development over his career. Like this, it's the same thing where it's like when he first began, I was like, yeah, here's another like he was like a very good Michael Jackson facsimile, and now he's become like different from that. Like you can tell where his influences are. Like like he wears them on his sleeve, but like the particular like style that he's going for, like I said earlier, like I alluded to, like I feel like he appropriates older sounds, but does it in a way that it's like, you know, this is not like an 80s like homage. Like it's a new sound that uses a lot of like nostalgic textures and everything like that, and that's the thing I dig. And it's hard to say whether it's like my like number one favorite, but it's like either number one or number two on the top 100 right now. Like it's up there. Yeah, that song slaps.
Yeah, it does indeed slap.
It goes. There's another article here that I wanted to discuss, and it's from Complete Music Update. It specifically pertains to the music industry, the Canadian music industry, but I'll kind of like go off a bit on like the music industry as a whole and the problem of like censorship.
Yeah.
There's web blocking is like blocking access to copyrighted materials directly through your ISP, and I'm a little like torn on this because like first of all, I think that the music industry like just has like way too much power to arbitrate what is a copyright violation and what is not a copyright violation.
Yeah.
And so I know that in Canada they actually have to like appeal to the Supreme Court in order to like have something blocked because I mean the ISP doesn't have any like obligation to block something that's copyrighted. Like usually it's the actual like you have to take it to court and all that shit. Like if there's any like damages that needs to be repaid or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about the relation of that is like the YouTube content ID system. Now YouTube is a great place for music, like most of the time, right?
Yeah.
Like I have just from like letting the algorithm kind of like just go, I have discovered so many great like albums, like jazz and like you know, pop music and like a little more experimental stuff.
Yeah.
But you know, the problem with YouTube is there's this thing called the Content ID system, and I actually did an essay on it in college. The reason that I brought it up again is because I actually got one of my albums demonetized by a record label that had claimed that there was copyrighted information, and they had put a copyright strike on it to demonetize. And you basically have one chance to appeal, and the person that you appeal to is the record label. And what are they going to say? Like, no, of course not. We're going to demonetize your video and claim the, you know, I'm not sure if they can actually claim the ad revenue, but
right.
You know,
That's what I was wondering. Like, are they just like making money off of your album?
Yeah. Well, so I don't actually know how it works, but I'm guessing probably. Like the thing is, like the video probably has like 100 views or something, so it's not like it's really bringing.
Not making the big bucks.
Yeah, the big like ad revenue, right? But the thing about it is that you have a lot, like if you're a copyright holder and the Content ID system identifies that there's something out there that is violating a copyright, and the copyright it does not only necessarily apply to recorded content, that it includes like covers as well. It's because a cover is a different type of royalty. It's like an actual like writing credit, whereas like the record company usually holds the recording rights, which is like the mechanical rights, like the distribution rights and all that stuff, right? So the record label, like if they find that you use like one of their songs, even like a snippet, right? They have the right to just like you know, demonetize. They can demonetize. They can monitor how many like likes or views and it gets, or they can just like, I think a lot of times they can just like take it down. Like if you get a copyright strike, a lot of times they just like they would have you take it down. And I think for me, in my case, they demonetized, and then if you open the info section of a video that has copyrighted material from a source, It says used with the permission of, or used with license of, or this music is licensed to, or something like that. I don't know.
It says it's on your album.
Yeah, and so you can actually see, if you go on and you see the YouTube video for 2015 to 2016, it's MMXV, like it's in Roman numerals, because, fuck numbers. You can actually see that I'm actually going on right now, because like I want to see who it's licensed to.
Is it the Artifacts 1 full album?
Yeah, actually that's the one. Sorry, Artifacts 1. Yeah, and there's a copyright claim on it.
Yeah, I see that. That's Believe Music on behalf of Marrakesh Records.
Yeah, I have no idea. Like, I've never heard of this person before. Never sampled any. Like, I don't really sample on a normal day. But like, yeah. And this is the thing is that the thing that surprised me was that this is not like UMG, right? This is not like a big
Right.
holding company. Like, this is not one of the major labels, right? But any label can just like do this, and like obviously they're not going to take the time to like assess whether there's actual copyrighted material. If the YouTube Content ID system says that there's copyrighted material, then they're going to demonetize, right?
Yeah.
And this is, I think, a problem, because like, what if you're using music for like fair use or parody or satire, right?
Right.
The person that arbitrates whether or not that they're actually using it for fair use or satire or anything like that is the person who is like making the copyright claim to begin with, right? So they're not going to there's not going to be a person who's just like listening to every appeal, right?
Right.
There's not somebody you're going to be listening to like, oh yeah, I mean, I think that guy's right, and he's actually using it for educational purposes, so I'm just going to not demonetize his video, right? So.
And I clicked the song that it's alleged to have taken, which has less views than your album at 104.
Yeah.
And it came out a couple months before yours.
Yeah.
So it's really weird.
Yeah, so the YouTube Content ID system is a bit of a mess.
I'll give him a thumbs down just to be safe. So now he has 3 up and 1 down.
Oh no.
It's a 25% dislike ratio, and I'll give yours a thumbs up because I did like that album.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. I need it. I need the support. Thanks.
But technically, I'm supporting him by thumbs upping your video.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, actually, I mean,
so he's
like,
now neutral again because I gave him an up and a down.
well, if he's like in the theoretical world where my video actually made money, he would actually be making more money off my video than his music, which is kind of hilarious. But anyway.
Yeah.
That's one topic I want to talk about. I think I got most of the points out there that I wanted to address. Is there anything in the news and commentary that you want to bring up?
So I don't know how familiar you are with this news story, but it seemed to appeal to your fascination with both pop music and boobs.
Go for it.
So the musician
just like lay it all on me. Like, both the pop music and the boobs, lay it all on me.
Yeah. I will lay them down, as they say.
What do you mean my fascination with boobs?
I mean, you in particular. I think you'll really like it, but I think let me rephrase that. I don't think you'll like it. I think you'll have opinions about it.
Okay, do
so,
it.
Doja Cat or Doja Cat. I don't know.
There's no way that we'll not be discussing Doja Cat. It's like she'll come up.
Yeah. So Doja Cat, her song "Say So," I think at one point it was number 1.
Yeah, it was for sure.
But leading up to it becoming number 1, she had made a tweet on Twitter of if her I want to get it just right, so I'll pull up this article. We can edit.
Wait, was this the story where she accidentally showed her boobs on Instagram?
No, this is the opposite of that. So on May 6th, she tweeted, "If Say So hits number 1, I'll show you guys my boobs really hard. So so then obviously
It's like it's never stopped her in the past. Like okay.
So she says that, lots of people are streaming the song. I saw a clip. I heard about the story on Philip DeFranco on YouTube, and he showed a video where a guy had like 10 different devices, like different phones, computers, and he was playing the song. So lots of people were like aggressively trying to get this thing to number one for the boobs. And then she took it back. She said, "Oh, thanks for getting number one. I'm not going to show you my boobs."
Well,
So there was, and lots. I think there was an amount of people not thrilled with that. But I guess I'm wondering, your opinions of that reaction.
of the reaction of her deciding not to do it, or
Of her pulling that move and then not delivering. I'll say that I don't care.
Yeah,
if
I don't
she
care.
showed her boobs or not.
Well, it's like, so this is the thing. Like, you can basically see her boobs in Say So. So,
Yeah.
like this is like, if my video gets to number one or something, I'll like, publish another song or something like that. Like,
Right.
nobody gives a shit. Or I'll like, I'll do a Reddit AMA. Like, nobody
Yeah.
gives a shit. Like, even if she had showed her boobs, it may have been like big news to some people. But honestly, like, it's the internet. I mean, like, how hard is it to find boobs? Like, it's
Right.
But
it's more. It's more
spoiler alert.
manipulating.
It's easy.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty easy. It's very easy. It's almost difficult not to.
And if I'm right, and she did accidentally show her boobs on Instagram, then she is vindicated.
Yeah, I'm just more curious the strategy of self promotion in that way. Does it feel like it's cheating in a way? You know what I mean?
Oh, you mean like in order to like advance your own, advance your own clout and your song and
Like
and
to
how
make a
successful
song
it is.
number one. It's like I would have been curious if that song would have gone to number one without that. Because I don't necessarily know that it would have been number one. It's up there.
Well,
But I think like when you see like all the people that were interacting off of this, I wonder if that affected it. There's no way to really know, but
so two things. I'm glad that you brought this up because this will eventually segue into something else I want to talk about. And I would have to say that, it's like kind of engineering your own success in a way, like using I don't think, like, I agree. I think that it's definitely not a sign that even if it like starts at number one or it's on number one for a few weeks, it's definitely not, something that's like going to be on the charts for like a long time.
Right.
Like it's not like a Starboy or a fucking bad guy. Yeah, bad guy. It's not like a bad guy or anything.
it's
like
no
that.
Old Town Road.
Yeah, no, like so she kind of engineered her way up there, and I mean, like, I don't care. I mean, you can use.
I mean,
it's as far as I'm concerned, it's like a promotional tool. The thing about Doja Cat is she's kind of like an actual shit poster, in a way. Like she's like, I think in her prime she was making like meme music, like, and that's basically where she comes from, and that's, I think, the appeal of her is that as she kind of engages with the Reddit culture. So
yeah. So her trolling the titty promise, what is on brand. Like that's her thing. Like that kind of fits with who she is.
It does, and like, I mean, it's kind of pathetic that it actually worked. I mean, like, at some point I have to discuss my philosophical opinions of the whole simp thing. I mean, like, I'm not sure if this is necessarily a good example of that. I'm not pro use of the term simp, but I am like, like, it's really bizarre that so many people would just want to see like Doja Cat's titties, like literally just fire up Pornhub, and you can see somebody who probably looks a lot like Doja Cat, with who is just like willing to expose her tits without having to listen to her song on repeat so that it gets up to number one, right? So it's just like I mean, okay, I guess. Like, I mean, I'm kind of like not surprised by this thing at all, but you know, I have kind of like divided opinions. But it's like, but yeah, I would say it's not uncharacteristic of her.
Yeah. I will say I listened to the song. I heard the story of this from on the Philip DeFranco episode, and I didn't know who Doja Cat was. I didn't listen to the song at that point, but during my listening of the top 100 playlist, the song came up, and I didn't make the connection until afterwards. And I thought, so my opinion of the song wasn't influenced one way or the other by the Titty Gate, if you want to give it a name. But I thought it was an okay song. It was a fun, kind of poppy song. I mean, it's not the best way to describe a pop song, but it was like the perfect, like, I can picture that being on the radio for months, and eventually people will hate it, but it'll have its time in the sun kind of thing.
Yeah, I listened to it, and immediately I was like, oh, so another artist kind of like jumping on the bandwagon of like a disco and you know, funk kind of nostalgia. And like, you know, the song is okay, like it's not like a bad song or anything like that, but I was like, of all the people who are doing like 80s nostalgia, like Dua Lipa and like The Weeknd and Lizzo, they're all like doing it like, I mean, to like different degrees of efficacy. And like, as far as this one goes, like I was like not totally like blown away by it. Like you know, I think she's like, you know, quote unquote charming, but like, and you know, obviously the video is going to like help with the appeal. But I mean, that's the same thing, right? Like her like appearance is branding, right? So
my opinion was that if movies were being made in 2020, this would be a song that's in a movie.
Yeah,
that's what it felt like.
Yeah,
like kind of like a fun young adult movie.
Yeah, but I don't think it's like a Get Lucky or anything like that, where it's like but I think it's like you're kind of like jumping on the, you know, the train a little late now, because I feel like, you know, now that, you know, Daft Punk and like Mark Ronson and like all these other artists have already done it, it's like a little, the novelty is a little less, you know. But, you know, like still not a bad song. Not like a lot of her other like post Moo songs.
Yeah, you sent me the Moo song yesterday, and I listened to a couple seconds of it. That's that and Say So are the only two I've heard now. And I thought Say So, for what it was going for, I thought it was a good tune.
Well, so Say So is all right. Moo I fucking dig because it's funny. So the thing is, I kind of regret the fact that she's not leaning into like meme culture as much anymore, because like now that she's kind of gone big, she has to like be legit, right? And a lot of her stuff, she's like kind of transitioning out of like making more lo-fi stuff now. But see, the song Moo is like excellent in so many ways. Like it's fucking hilarious. The video that goes with it is funny. And it's like, I love the awkward, like obvious green screening, and the and the fact that it's like basically like a beautiful like lo-fi hip hop song with like Wes Montgomery samples, but with like the most lewd and like, you know, it's a meme song, right?
Yeah.
And I just like, I thought it was fucking hilarious, and I just sort of like, I wish more people would make like songs that are funny, because that immediately and funny and self-aware, because those two elements I feel like sell a pop song a lot more, and and I think self-awareness is something that goes a long way. I think it's one of the reasons why Billie Eilish is so popular and so successful, and I feel like Justin Bieber falls short because like not only the like lack of like development over time, but also just like a level of self-awareness of where his strengths and weaknesses are.
Well,
I mean,
so
I have a more nuanced opinion of Justin Bieber, but that's just like an off the cuff thing.
so let me ask you this: do you think that Justin Bieber does or would still perform "Baby" in 2020?
No, see,
Do you think he would do it like as a goof, or would he like not do it at all? He just wouldn't touch that part of his career.
I'm not sure if he can, right? Because like, I mean, now he has more of like an almost like a tenor to alto range, and that's like clear. That's like such a soprano. That's like I mean, and if he like pitched it down a lot, then maybe. But like the thing is, I think he has enough hits like post puberty to like
So you just think he won't do it because of the range? You don't think like? Do you think he's proud of that song? As like, yeah, I'll sing "Baby."
I mean, like I feel like if he could, then he would. I mean, there's nothing like. The thing is, it's like it was actually a successful song. Like it was hugely successful. Right. It was it was kind of like a meme, a little ironically in its own right. And so I feel like if he could, then he would, because it's like a massively successful song. And I think the demographic of Justin Bieber has changed like very slightly, but like
right.
I would say for the most part, he's still appealing to the same demographic.
Right, but I'm picturing Justin Bieber, the haircut, you know what I mean, the whole video of "Baby."
Mm-hmm.
I feel like whether he's matured or not as a human, his music has changed, at least from my limited perspective of what his music is and now. What it was and now is.
So I think I mean, there's a difference between developing as an artist and also like the actual like the context in the musical scene around you developing and having to like adjust to those trends. And I think Justin Bieber has adjusted definitely to those trends. Like the song "Baby" is such a 2008 song or whenever the fuck it came out. I don't even remember. But yeah, so I think if he can somehow, then he would. But the thing is that as far as like longevity goes, I think he has enough stuff to like that's like more contemporary that he can lean into.
Well, if he broke out "Baby" and that other "One Less Lonely Girl," if he broke out those two songs and released them as like created them into some sort of new style, like the current day Justin Bieber covering the OG beats, I think that would be very interesting.
It would be something, I
don't know if it would be good because I didn't particularly enjoy either of those songs, nor have I heard what his current style is, but kind of like, they sample every song. In one of my bangers and stinkers, I have one that sampled probably what was at one point the most famous song in the world, and became a stinker. Yeah, I'm spoiling it's a stinker because I didn't like the song.
Yeah, but I mean, like, don't spoil what's the next segment, because like I want to hear you go off on it.
Yeah, okay.
Regarding the Doja Cat thing, artificially increasing your plays and your outreach and stuff like that. Justin Bieber, it's funny enough, apropos both topics, both Justin Bieber and artificially inflating your song's success.
Yeah.
Justin Bieber released that song "Juicy," which is a travesty to music, art, culture, and humanity.
Juice.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, it's just like kind of a Justin Bieber not exactly at his best. But the thing is that when he released it, he released a message on TikTok. I think it was either TikTok or Spotify that said, play it while you're asleep. Like, just put it on. Yeah, put it on a loop. Like, did you know about this, right? Did you know about this?
I didn't know.
Okay, so what he basically did was that he sent a message to his followers that said, like put it on while you sleep. Just don't put it in a playlist with anything else. Just like put it on repeat while you're sleeping. And I was like, what the fuck? This is some like reminded me of like Brave New World, where they like indoctrinate you while you sleep. Like it's like something out of an Aldous Huxley thing. And then I clued into the fact that he just wants it to be put on repeat so that it could be number one. It's like Justin Bieber. I mean, just like basically told you to artificially increase his his plays.
Like at that point, can't you just buy plays on YouTube and Spotify and shit like that? Why doesn't he just buy views? What's the difference at that point? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that he'll probably be like, oh, it's cheating to buy the plays when people are actually listening to it.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like it's
at that point, there's not really any difference other than he's doing it cheaper.
That's the thing. It's like it's marketing, but it's not even like effective marketing. Like it's so overtly like either it's weird or it's like just manipulative.
Well, like he could say like, oh, my song was played 1 billion times. About 200 million of those people were actually listening to it.
Yeah, and
like
I think
that just takes it's just inflating it. It's just like I don't approve of that.
Yeah,
but
he wanted to get it to number one.
If all he wanted was a number one, then I mean, he thought of a great way to do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I'm not sure.
I wouldn't do it.
It's just that, like, I mean, being so overt about it, like it's almost as if like they just gave up on marketing. Yeah. It's like, just fucking, just like mute your computer, put it on repeat. Like go make a sandwich, go have a cup of coffee, and then come back, and then that's all we need from you.
Yeah.
It's like that's just like literally all we need, and then then you're a true believer. Like only true believers listen to like indoctrinate themselves into loving Justin Bieber while they sleep. So I mean, that's what I want to talk. I just thought that this was like, see, the thing about Doja Cat, at least she had like an incentive to artificially inflate her plays, whereas Justin Bieber was just like, fucking put it on while you sleep and just hit mute.
Yeah. I don't think he said hit mute. It comes on anyways.
I do think he wanted people to listen to the song, but like,
yeah,
I don't think he would have given a fuck whether people actually liked it. He just wanted it to be he just wanted it to be number one on Billboard. So.
I don't approve of that, but I mean, he was going for a different approach than I would have. Like my approach with music is that, we've discussed this before, where it's quality, not quantity kind of thing. Yeah. Of listeners, but he wanted quantity, and like if that's his thing, then he did it very well. He did it very smart.
Well, Justin Bieber, I mean, as far as like quality of the fandom goes, I mean, I don't think he's like he is deficient in any way in that regard.
When I said quality, I mean like of his say 1 billion
appreciating
plays.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Only a percentage of them are legitimate. Where he's going for the quantity of them rather than.
Yeah. I mean, like, so I guess I might as well just talk about my opinion about Justin Bieber. Like, so this is what I think in general about any high-profile person, right? I think that if they're like generally like acclaimed, then you should take them down a notch so that they're like a little more like on the same plane as everybody else. Like it humanizes them to take them down a notch. But if they're like too maligned, like Justin Bieber is, then I feel like we should acknowledge his strengths a bit in order to like bring him up, like in order to like equalize a bit. And the thing about Justin Bieber is that he actually is properly talented. Like he is a really like talented person. Now his weakness lies in that he just doesn't develop artistically, or if he does, it's like very seldom. And it's like, I mean, he's been with some interesting collaborators. Like he famously collaborated with Skrillex and Diplo, which is an interesting crossover, I think. But I think overall it's that he is never like taken the time like what's a good example? Somebody who's like kind of like dipped out of the spotlight for a little while and then like developed their sound a bit. So there's a scale of pop music that goes from like pleasant and surprising. Like when you find a good pop song, it's like you've been drinking like Tim Hortons coffee all your life, and then you finally drink like a proper good cup of coffee, and you're like, oh, this is what coffee tastes like, right?
Yeah.
That's like, for me, that's pop music. Pop music is coffee. And then there's like really garbage coffee, like, you know, the no-name brand, like instant coffee. And then that's like, you know, Florida Georgia Line, or like a lot of the shitty like collaborations that you hear sometimes. Like all of the attempts to like fuse country with like hip hop and all that stuff.
Right.
The like awkward non-starter projects. Just some of like the sheer trash you see on the top 100.
Yeah.
Fucking not Gucci Mane. Fucking what's his name? Gucci Gang. The song. It's just like it's trash, but it's like it's almost like that's different, where it's almost like so trash that it's like it's funny in its own right. So it
Right.
has merit.
No, yeah, I get that.
So yeah, that's the scale of pop. Like, but I would say most of it is kind of in the middle, where it's like, it's just like, yeah, it just fails to impress me.
I will say in my listening, at least half of the stuff that I heard was that mid tier of like, yeah, okay, like I didn't want to turn it off, but it's like it didn't make enough of an impression of me to look into it more, whereas some of them made me were good enough that I did look into them more. Or they were bad enough that made me want to look into them more.
Yeah, like Takeshi 6ix9ine, like the one that he has, I think it's number 2 or 3 right now. It's number 3 on the top 100 is the song Gooba, right?
Right.
And that song just like it's with most like trap based music. It's just like, like it just fails to impress me. It's not that it's like bad or anything, or it's like you know, it's lazy, or it's like, you know, anything like that. It's just that it's like, it just has like a you know, a numbing effect on me. It's just like, oh, this is music, I guess.
Yeah.
It's rated.
And was he in jail for a bit? Am I confused with someone else, or was he the guy that was in jail for a bit?
Yeah, he went to jail.
His return.
He went to jail and he snitched on some other guys. And you know what happens to snitches?
Yeah. So he this was his return to music after jail. Like, I never heard of his music before. This was the only song of his that I'd heard.
Yeah.
So I'm not coming into it from the perspective of a fan. It's like, this is all I have in reference to who he is. And I thought, like, I'm like, okay, yeah, it's a song. It didn't really, I think that if it was a regular song that came out without it being like his return to music, it probably wouldn't have been a high ranking song. I think the context of him having not been able to do music for at least whatever time, it wasn't even that long that he was in jail or anything, but
yeah, he used to be called Takeshi 6ix9ine, and I'm not sure how long he's been high profile for. I think this is probably the peak of his commercial success thus far, but so it's of a genre like the Takeshi, like this song in particular, Gooba, is a trap song, but it's like it's also categorized under reggaeton, which is I guess like a style of electronic music, dance music that's influenced a little bit by reggae, and you know it has some Caribbean influences as well. And the thing about reggaeton, I didn't know what separated it other from like other forms of like electronic dance music for a little while. Mm-hmm. But the thing about reggaeton is that it's actually categorized by that almost like a polyrhythm type thing that, you know, that you hear all the time. Yeah. But like apparently, like that's one of the characteristics. Like a lot of the reggaeton that I listen to, like investigated, is like kind of characterized by that rhythm, which I think is interesting because it's like a lot of genres are characterized by their rhythm or their harmony or something like that. And I learned something. I mean, I'm not sure if I'll ever listen to reggaeton again, but that, you know, that's one of the characteristics.
Yeah, like my impression of it was that if you are the kind of person that really, really was a big fan of his, you probably thought that was like an amazing song.
Yeah, probably.
Like I you know, I don't know his music, so like it's not like, oh man, the new whatever his name, his song came out. I can't remember. It was 6ix9ine is all I remember.
Yeah.
Which his name, the spelling of it, I told you about how there was the big misstep with his name where it's spelled 6ix, the number 9, INE. But he could have just done 6ix because of Roman numeral 9.
Yeah.
It would have been a cool stylistic thing, but he missed out.
Yeah, or if he capitalized the IX, it would be a little more apparent. But
yeah,
I think most of I'm gonna be a dick here, but I think most of his fans would probably not get the reference. Shit. I really hope you don't like to get. I really hope the people who are listening to this, if there's anybody who's going to listen to this podcast, I really hope that you have ice on hand so that you can apply it to that burn, because that was a fucking like nuclear take there.
You got him.
I'm going to be dissing certain fandoms. Like, I'm going to be coming after the country music fandom a lot. Like, eventually, I got to do my prepared statement on the country music.
So are we about... Well, I do have one more news-ish thing, but it's a quick one. So Roger Waters, in 2017, I guess, he did the tour Us and Them.
Mm-hmm.
And he made like a similar to when he did The Wall. He made like a sort of documentary live music film type thing. Mm-hmm. And it's coming out on digital release in a couple weeks. I think it comes out in June. It has I think it has a bunch of songs from Dark Side of the Moon, obviously Us and Them being one of them. I think there's also some songs from a couple of his solo albums, and maybe even some songs written specifically for this show. If it's anything like what The Wall movie, documentary, whatever you want to call it, if it's anything like that, I think it'll be a worthwhile musical experience.
Wait, so is it actually analogous to like The Wall, like the animated one, or not the animated, but like the one with Bob Geldof?
So the Wall one was, like I saw Roger Waters' The Wall in concert in I think 2009, and then a couple of years ago this documentary came out. I keep calling it a documentary because this when we went to theaters and saw it, and it was an actual documentary where it did have performances of all the songs from the album, like that they would have done in concert, but there was also like these documentary segments in between a bunch of the songs, sort of providing and most of the time it was just following Roger Waters as he's living his life, or like talking with his kids, or he's talking in one clip, he's talking to a bartender in a bar kind of thing. Just little things, more of a who Roger Waters is and the context of when he was writing The Wall and why he decided to bring it back and stuff. But then they re-released, I think it's an edited version of that. I remember it being on Netflix, or it was, for the most part, it was just the performances. Like they cut down a lot of the documentary stuff, so it's more like a concert film.
That sounds kind of interesting.
I'm guessing that this Us and Them will mostly be a concert film, or at least this release of it will be. And then they also released like an album on disc, digital, and vinyl. And I think we got my dad a copy of the vinyl of the Wall live album. I think it was like a 3-disc thing. So I'm looking forward to that, because I thought about trying to get tickets to one of the shows for Us and Them a couple years ago, but I really didn't want to travel to do it. I think there was one in Ottawa, and then there might have been one in Toronto, but I didn't really feel like going out of London. Like if it came to London, I would have gone, but like when we went to see The Wall, we went to Toronto to see it.
Yeah.
And I generally don't like going to Toronto, because 100% of my experiences with Toronto are going to Toronto for a couple hours to see a concert and then driving home, and it's such a pain in the ass that it makes me have this bad association with Toronto.
Yeah, well, it's like that's the same thing for me too, is because like Ottawa is a big city, like it's just over 1 million people now, but it doesn't have any like like mid-sized venues, so you get like huge artists. Like, I mean, like somebody like Roger Waters is pretty high profile, so he may come here. But a lot of like mid-level acts just like skip Ottawa entirely. Like a lot of bands, like I'm sure if like the Foo Fighters came, actually the Foo Fighters were pretty good, but like if I don't know, just like a band, like I don't know, if like Radiohead came to like or did like a tour or something like that, they would just skip Ottawa entirely. Like they go to Toronto, maybe Montreal or something like that. Ottawa just does not have the kind of venue to host that kind of artist. Like you're either like ridiculously high profile artists like Elton John, who came here last year, or you know, it's just not a lot of mid-sized venues, and it hasn't changed a lot. For the past several years, like nobody's just like gonna, you know, build. Like I'm sure that if somebody did, there would be a demand for it, but I think it also has to do with you know, the availability of like a space that would be appropriate for that, and also the fact that Ottawa, there's a lot of like you know, laws concerning like noise and stuff like that. So like I know that Blues Fest, which is probably the biggest festival that goes on every year, is like hit with noise complaints like constantly, because it's like in the worst spot that you can have a festival. Like it's in Lansdowne Park, which is right next to quite a few apartment complexes, and you can hear Blues Fest from they're probably within like a kilometer radius or something ridiculous like that. Just because it's so fucking loud. And it's Lansdowne Park is you know, it's not a sparse area. Like there's a lot of residential areas around there.
Yeah.
But
I will say with The Wall, that one definitely, like, I couldn't picture that being in Budweiser Gardens in London. Because it's just such, it's almost like the stage itself is so essential for that. Because they literally build The Wall during the show and have like these huge projectors on it at certain points. Like it really needed the big venue for it. I don't know what Us and Them really looked like in terms of the presentation of it. I imagine because it's Roger Waters and it was like a big deal to be revisiting and doing a similar show to The Wall, that it was more than just him and a band on a stage. And the fact that there's this film coming out, I think it's definitely more than just a band on a stage. And also like he probably has like the pig flying around. He had that during The Wall, even though it wasn't animals, but he brings the pig around. So I'm imagining the venue for certain artists. I mean, specifically Roger Waters, but depending on what kind of presentation it is, the venue is definitely an important factor of where they're choosing to go. So I was okay with going to Toronto for that one, because there's no way that could have existed at that scale in London.
I mean, I'm not like super into Roger Waters just as like a, you know, an entity in himself, just like more so Pink Floyd. Like I will say it was very much like, it was like note for note The Wall, you know what I mean? Like it didn't feel like this was Roger Waters changing it because he didn't think The Wall was perfect already. It was him like bringing it to the new generation, and kind of, you know, like a lot of it, there's themes in the original, because Roger Waters, I think his dad died in World War One, or I don't know, maybe it was World War Two, I don't know. But the whole daddy's flown across the ocean kind of thing. They had a lot of that with like the sort of modern soldiers and families that are going through that. So like they touched on that and like sort of made that more of a modern theme that I felt worked for that version of The Wall. And when they have The Wall all built, they project the trial video, like the animation from the movie. And he's basically singing in sync with the characters on the screen. So that was very satisfying. So did you want to proceed? Because I think we've been recording for a little while now, like an hour and 16 minutes. Like a lot of it's going to be edited, obviously.
Yeah.
But did you want to proceed to the bangers and stinkers section?
Yeah.
Bangers and stinkers.
Bangers v Stinkers, where we put the top songs against each other and their which ones are good and which ones are not that good. And
Brilliant. No. I like that. That's fucking hilarious. Let's do that.
Some of them are banging, some of them not as much.
They be stinking.
There may be some odor attached to them. I've got one that that frustrated me for a few different ways.
Do it up.
I alluded to it previously, but okay. So in my listening to the top 100, a song came up that opened with the Macarena. So the Macarena, which at the time was probably one of the biggest songs in the world. This song very heavily leans on the fact that the Macarena is like the hook to the song, which I don't like, because if the Macarena wasn't the cultural phenomenon that it was, this song would be nothing. So the intro is that main like I can't sing the language, and then goes, hey Macarena, and then it goes, there's like a loop. I don't think it's from the song Macarena, but it's just a generic loop, and then a guy rapping. So Tyga is the name of the artist that does this song. It's called A Macarena, if that wasn't clear. And he sings or raps some generic rap lyrics. I pulled up the lyrics to give you a sample. There's some N-words in here that I won't be singing, but there's a line that goes, bitches on my dick, told him give me 1 minute. One of the more highlighted parts of the song that I thought was very not good.
I love when people just like read lyrics. So here we have bitches on my dick.
And then later it goes, bitches on my stick, but my name ain't Harry Potter. She lick it up, make it disappear, like ta-da. She asked me for some dollars. Now that bitch get nada. And I'm in this bitch for my click. What? I'ma throw 20 racks on this bitch. What? 3 phones on my lap. Rolled on my back. The next line I won't read because there's an N-word in it. Look like someone that I used to know. Undefeated with the bitches. I'm invincible. The main thing is I didn't like it.
We're clipping that.
The bitches on my dick was the line that stood out the most, and that's like just because it's a very generic, like, yeah, it's about fucking bitches and the Macarena. That's all it had to it.
It's about casual relationships. 50% of the song was
Macarena, which made the Macarena not as good. Which, not that the Macarena itself as a listening song is good. It's more of a dance choreograph song. But this song didn't add anything to that, and I didn't like it.
I've seen worse rhymes. Like I feel like I haven't.
I didn't have a problem with the rhymes. I just thought like it was a nothing song that was leaning on the identity of Macarena.
Yeah.
If the Macarena didn't exist, this song wouldn't be anything. It would just be another rap song that just was kind of eh.
Yeah.
And I think about that a lot when it comes to sampling in music, where it's like, would the song be as good if that sample wasn't already in a good song? You know what I mean?
I feel like
and I think that's a fine approach in general. Like I've never sampled anything when I do music, but if that's their thing, where they're like, some people are really good at finding obscure samples that, like, oh man, I would have never heard that otherwise. But at the same time, it's like, well, they didn't write that. Yeah. But like, that's the style of the song. So it's kind of like, okay, if that's what the song is, it's good at being what it is. It's just, that's not what I'm into.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's totally depends on like how you use the sample. Like, I've seen some really good and inspired sampling. Like, there's an album called Game Theory by The Roots, and it has some of the best sampling. It's a hip hop album. The Roots is a hip hop group, and it has some of the coolest uses of sampling. And the thing about sampling is that a lot of the times it's done so inconspicuously. Like, this is something that I wanted to discuss about Old Town Road. I think a lot of people are probably, who are in the know this already, but Old Town Road actually samples a Nine Inch Nails instrumental.
Oh.
Yeah, so Trent Reznor published this album called Ghosts 1 to 4, which is actually a atmospheric kind of like ambient album. I mean, stuff that you would typically hear on a Nine Inch Nails record, but without Trent's vocals. And it kind of like was a chance for him to experiment with various textures and stuff like that. And what the so-called, actually, well, it is a banjo. The banjo riff in Old Town Road was actually sampled from that instrumental album. Yeah. And I actually didn't know that until recently. I was like, damn, that's interesting. I would never thought that a pop, like, just because it's such an obscure like track. Like, a lot of sampling in pop music is with some pretty high profile music. Like, obviously the Macarena, like you said, everybody knows.
Right. But my thing is, like, the difference, like, you only just finding out that was a sample from a Nine Inch Nails song, where as far as I know, you're at least somewhat familiar with their music. Mm-hmm. Whereas everyone is familiar with the Macarena. Yeah. And it was obvious from the second the song starts as just straight up the Macarena.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I'm already thinking of a song. Not that I think listening to the Macarena, not doing the dance, is like an activity a lot of people do. Yeah. But they're like, oh, now it becomes a less good song after the good song starts.
Yeah. Well, there's that, and like a lot of artists like just straight up like they'll sample, or they'll actually like repeat a chorus. Like, I can't remember the song that goes what you say. Yeah. That, like, they just like I'm not sure if they actually, I think they sampled that one, but they basically just like copied the chorus like word for word, and then they just like the other verses around that were just all rap. And then they added some like ad libs and other things like around the chorus. Mm-hmm. But it's like, well, the thing about like, that's the chorus of the song. Like, that's the thing that you wait for when you're listening to the song, and you're waiting for it, and you're hearing the chorus from another song. Yeah. So it's like you're just listening to that song, or it's like when Kanye, I'd say this is probably like a better example of sampling, but when Kanye sampled Harder, Faster, Stronger by Daft Punk, and I think he did it a little, like, it wasn't inconspicuous, but the thing about that, at least, was that the Daft Punk sample was at least there as more of like a supporting vehicle to his rapping and to the chorus, because there is a rapped chorus. It's like that don't kill me, that only makes me strong, right? So it's like the sample is repurposed as an instrumental that works to complement the chorus, and that's why I feel like sampling works better when it's done a little more inconspicuously like that. Yeah. In my opinion.
I am of the same opinion. Yeah. I will say in a single defense of this song, I watched the music video. And it's very much based off of the scene in Jim Carrey's The Mask, when he's at the nightclub and he's in like that yellow suit and he's like dancing around with Cameron Diaz. Yeah. It's basically that scene is the music video. There's a few other like locations, but that's like the main one. And I don't necessarily think that sort of sampled Macarena song goes with that style of like the Latin big band nightclub setting. Watching the video made me want to watch The Mask more than it made me like the Macarena. It makes me want to go listen to that, like that that upbeat swing of from that scene in The Mask. Well,
that's funny because like
this song only makes me want to listen to better music.
Or watch a Jim Carrey film. But like, so this is, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because like, I will be talking about music videography sometimes, because I think it's like an interesting thing too, because there's a lot of trends in music videos that are worth discussing as well. Because I think music videos are like one of the biggest vehicles for promoting a single. like there's a lot of doing that exact thing where you're referencing either a specific film or a genre of film within a music video. The song Fancy, which is an old song, it's came out in, I would say, 16 or 15. It's by Iggy Azalea, and it features Charlie XCX, who I will definitely be talking about later in this podcast. That song, or that video, is in the style of, I think it's Clueless. And I didn't know that because I haven't seen Clueless. But, I mean, there's a lot of other examples of just, like, outright referencing, like, either genres of film or, like, specific films. I know that if you see the music video or the music videos for a lot of the newer Weeknd tracks off of his most recent LP, they're all in like the style of a 1970s like crime film. Like it reminds me a lot of the aesthetic of Casino, the Martin Scorsese film, and like not just the fact that he's actually like at a casino, but So there's a lot of like. Purposeful homage to like specific films or specific film genre within like music videos.
There was a Drake music video in the past couple of years where I think it was like him going to a school dance, but it was like the cast of Degrassi with him.
Oh yeah,
because Drake was on Degrassi.
Yeah.
He was Jimmy. He got shot. Spoiler alert. But he was in a wheelchair. And he could also rap in the show too.
Was he in a wheelchair after he got shot or before?
Yeah. No, after he got shot. Like that was like the big turning point of his character when he had to be in a wheelchair for the rest of the show.
He was in a wheelchair before he got shot, and then he was just walking after.
It was a miracle.
The gunshot like provided like support for his limbs.
The best part about Drake's career is that it's good to see Jimmy walking again.
And dancing a lot in many cases. Do you have anything to say about the Tootsie Slide? Because like I have not a lot about to say about it. It's just like another dance fad, to be honest.
Yeah, it seemed like he also wanted a Macarena, but he at least had the courtesy of writing it himself. Or I mean, who knows if he wrote it, but he didn't steal the Tootsie Slide from anything.
The Tootsie Slide, well, I mean, it was like...
Is it Tootsie?
I think
like
it's Tootsie.
Roll?
I think Tootsie... So the Tootsie was actually named after the choreographer who made the dance, who is a collaborator with Drake, I think.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's a reference to if it's an original name or whether it's actually a reference to his name. But
you're saying Tootsie, like Tootsie Roll.
I think so. I think that's how it's said. That's in every commentary on it that I've seen. It's always said as in Tootsie, like Tootsie Roll, I think.
Yeah. Okay. I like Tootsie Rolls. The Tootsie Pops, rather.
They're really fucking sticky. I just like something about sticky food that I just.
Well, I like the Tootsie Pops, like the sucker.
Oh yeah, yeah. Those are
like where it's got like the Tootsie Roll in the middle on the stick. So
yeah.
It's like you're not getting all sticky from it. You're just eating a sucker.
Yeah, I could take it or leave it. I don't know about that. It's like what is in that?
This is where we differ for the first time of opinions on this podcast.
Yeah,
Tootsie Rolls.
This is an important point of contention, and it will lead to a further schism in our friendship. No, I was kidding. But so this is another thing where I feel like TikTok will be an effective vehicle. Like TikTok is like such a Zoomer thing where it's like I'm not like I just don't get it, and I probably will never get it. I still think that you could probably use it effectively as a marketing tool, even if you don't necessarily make pop music. Like you could use it to make something really interesting, I think.
Like there were definitely songs in my playlist that I heard that sounded like they were specifically written so that like there was like a section that could be used as a good TikTok. Like there were a few that were like that, where it's like, oh, I can picture this being a TikTok trend. Yeah,
well, I mean, like a lot of artists now, and we'll talk about this when we talk about other. When I talk about other pop songs, but whoever compiles or edits the video will actually take compilations of people who are on like platforms like TikTok, and they will like edit those into the video, and that will be the music video essentially. And if you don't mind, I actually like to talk about that because one thing I've noticed, especially during the quarantine, is the use of the outsourced video. Is what I'm calling it. I'm coining that right now. And I expect my compensation in royalties. But The first time I noticed it was with Charlie XCX, the song, what's it called? Feelings. Basically, it's a compilation video of not only her own home videos, but a whole bunch of other home videos. And it's edited in such a way, obviously, like, nobody's making big ass music videos now because, like, it's quarantine and, it's everybody's at home. I noticed that Justin Bieber and Ariana Grande did the same thing, where they edited, content not from themselves, not just from themselves, but from a lot of other people. So they kind of like outsourced the video in a way, and it's basically just like home video footage. I've actually seen this done like quite a few times now, where it's basically like an outsourced video. So that's like an interesting trend. I'm not sure if that's something that will just like be something that is kind of emblematic of the quarantine, or whether that's something that will continue to propagate after the quarantine is done with. But I thought that's kind of an interesting thing. I mean, most of the time, I just don't like it, because I like videos that are well choreographed, if it's like a dance thing, or like shot and it looks like planned and well lit and interesting, like the video for Blinding Lights, or any of the videos that for like Billie Eilish and that, or any Lizzo. So I'm not personally a fan of the outsourced video. I just thought it's interesting to comment on that.
Yeah, I think it'll probably, in this form, it'll exist during the quarantine. I think it wouldn't surprise me if we see videos kind of like that will be a genre of video in the future. But I think musicians, like the high production value music videos as well. Like those songs that did that probably would have done a big music video had they been able to at this time.
Yeah. Speaking of the Justin Bieber and Ariana Grande track, this was one of the tracks I feel kind of middle of the road about. So I'm not probably going to talk about the song a lot in itself. There's a YouTuber named Charles Cornell that did a really good breakdown of it, and he kind of like suggested ways of improving it.
I love that guy.
Yeah, he's really good. Friend of the show, and and he and
here's Charles Cornell now. Tell us about.
Yeah, we'll just, speaking of outsourcing, we'll just get him to explain. So he basically explains like ways in which like the song is like kind of run of the mill, and ways that they could have improved it and stuff like that. But the thing that I want to talk about specifically pertaining to this song is the return of the Doo Wop rhythm, and how it it's used a lot in like love songs now. And this is not necessarily a love song, but the song Jessie Reyez, the song Figures, which I heard all the time because I used to work at a music theater. So it was definitely like a 2015 or 2016 era song. That song had a doo-wop rhythm as well, where it's like da 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 da, and it's like you have like a chord, like a sharp kind of chord on the second dotted quarter note of the bar. So da 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 da, right? Which is it's cool. I mean, like, it's kind of cool that people are looking backwards now in order to kind of gain influence. But anyway, that's one example. I always forget the dude's name. But
Justin Bieber.
No, not him.
You could never forget.
But Taylor Swift and
Justin.
No, not Justin Bieber. I actually like this guy like a little more than it's like Eddie Suarez or something. No, it's he's got like a last name like Cruz or something.
Ted Cruz.
Yeah, the Taylor Swift and Ted Cruz single. What's his name? Simon Suarez. No, wait. Oh, why do I keep? I'm gonna Google it because I don't know why, but I always fucking forget this guy's name.
I searched Taylor Swift Simon, and the autocomplete is Cowell.
No, that's not him. Okay. He's younger and more attractive than Simon Cowell.
I searched Taylor Swift Cruz, and I can see a photoshopped picture of Taylor Swift with a sad Ted Cruz next to her.
Ted Cruz, he's also ascended to meme status right now. I'm surprised that when I searched the song Lover, it didn't come up. The song is called Lover, right? And it featured, I don't know why I keep forgetting the dude's name. He's the guy, have mercy on me, take it easy on my heart. You know that song?
No.
Shawn Mendes. Oh, that's it.
Shawn Mendes.
Yeah, Shawn Mendes. Who fucking knows, dude? But I don't know why I keep forgetting his name. There's certain names that just like they don't like embed themselves into my brain. But
not everyone is the Biebs.
Yeah, he just doesn't have the name recognition. He never will. But Taylor Swift and Shawn Mendes did a song called Lover, which uses the same compound meter, and it's basically like a doo wop thing as well. But it's with there's a little more orchestration. And there's also a little more like overt reference to doo wop because their voices are like soaked in reverb as well, which I thought was a cool, homage. Like the song, I could actually take it or leave it itself, but the arrangement is pretty interesting. There's that, and then there's the song as well. So I'm seeing definitely a trend of like specifically with like love songs or sentimental songs being kind of referential to doo wop.
Right. Yeah, I heard the song. I didn't watch the video with it, which I feel like I should have watched with the outsourced video component, TM.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of their own video in there as well, where Ariana Grande has like, videos with her dog, or like Justin Bieber in his like big ass house with his girlfriend and that kind of thing. But like a lot of it is like has footage of other, home videos as well.
Yeah. So the question is, Aiden, is this a banger or is this a stinker?
Oh, the Stuck With You?
Yeah.
I would lean towards stinker.
Really?
It's middle of the road, really.
Right.
Like the only reason why I wanted to bring it up was to do like a self-masturbatory diatribe about doo wop, and any excuse to talk about doo wop, I'll do it. I'll doo wop.
I've got a song I can talk about.
Do it up.
So this came up in my playlist. My second experience with Post Malone after the Nirvana live stream that he did. A song called Take What You Want, which features Ozzy Osbourne in it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was an interesting... My perception of not knowing anything about Post Malone, I thought that Ozzy was an interesting person. Because I listened to this playlist while I was doing the dishes, so I couldn't check the artist of the song right away, so I didn't realize it was Post Malone, but I recognized Ozzy's voice. And the song sounded reminiscent of like heavy rock that Ozzy is from.
Like solo Ozzy or like Sabbath?
I couldn't tell you the difference between either. Like I wasn't a huge follower of either Sabbath or Ozzy. Okay. I know him by reputation, but it sounded like I would have believed Ozzy would make this song, other than the fact that Post Malone and another rapper that I don't know his name are in the song. But like it was a really cool like rock arrangement. It felt like kind of had that lyrical darkness that I would expect in a Sabbath or Ozzy song. There's a kick-ass guitar solo in there. It sounded like a rock song, and I liked that. It felt like I don't know what Ozzy does in the present day. I don't know if he still has music coming out or anything like that.
Does he still have like self-awareness as well? Like,
I mean, I think that it's been a long time.
I have to congratulate Ozzy Osbourne on not being a vegetable right now, because that's an accomplishment for him. I'm surprised. I'm wondering what he's doing. If he's doing like crossword puzzles or like Sudoku.
So apparently he has an album released in 2020. Came out in February. Black Sabbath had an album in 2013.
Yes, I remember that.
And then Ozzy had another album in 2010. So he had an album this year. He's back.
Yeah. Speaking of that last Sabbath album that came out in 2013, there was a video for it. I want to say it's God Is Dead. And it was shot by, or I'm not sure if it was shot, but it was directed by Peter Joseph, who directed all the Zeitgeist movies. And the Zeitgeist movies are like, depending on who you talk to, they're either like conspiracy theory trash, or they're like, really interesting social commentary. They're probably a little bit of both, to be honest. But the video, it definitely looks like not a particularly high budget. But I thought it was kind of cool. It was definitely the kind of thing that Peter Joseph would shoot. But I don't know. I just thought I'd throw it out there. If you want to like hit up Peter Joseph, I mean, he's a good videographer. He's trying to make a movie now, and it's been delayed for like a million years. I don't remember what it's called, but it's like related to the Zeitgeist films in like a very kind of cursory way. But he's also a classically trained musician as well. Like he's a classical percussionist, which is like such a cool combination of things. He's a guy who like makes music videos, social commentary, conspiracy documentaries, and he's like a classically trained percussionist. Like that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
He's also like, I would say his social commentary is actually pretty good. Like it's very nuanced. Like he's not like overly idealistic, and a lot of the stuff that he reads is from scientists and sociologists and stuff too. So big shout out to Peter Joseph.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show.
A last thing about the Take What You Want song by Post Malone. A couple songs from that same album called Hollywood's Bleeding also came up in that top 100 playlist. And all of them were good. So I will probably check out that full album.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that because I'll try and get into Post Malone a little more. Because like I usually, when I think of Post Malone, I think of his older material, like from like 3 or 4 years back. And I know that he's definitely like developed as an artist since then. So I have to start investigating his more recent oeuvre.
So to sum up, banger. I'll give it a banger.
Banger. We should, you know what? We should rename this segment. I'm going to rename this segment, or suggest rename this segment halfway through the segment, which is like total anarchy, but that's what I'm about. We should call it Bangers and Mash. Like bangers and mashed potato, like the stuff that's not good is just mash.
So okay, no, I like it. Bangers and mash. So if it's not good, that's a total mash.
But then again,
that sounds like a mash would be a good thing though.
Mash, it's mash.
Yeah, like they did the mash, they did the monster mash.
Okay, forget it then.
There's a graveyard smash, Aiden.
Yeah, I retract that. All right, but anyway, to get along with that, I guess the one that I want to talk about is Dua Lipa. I dig Dua Lipa for the most part. I'd say the song that is on the top is on the charts now is just an for me. Like I'm just gonna spoil it right off the top.
Okay.
It's a disco song. Like it's definitely like an homage as well to to disco music. But she does have a song called Future Nostalgia, which is actually the name of her LP. And Future Nostalgia, the song, is like leagues above a lot of pop music. Like it's there's some interesting like almost jazz harmony in the second half of the song. Like there's like weird like half diminished resolutions and stuff like that. But stuff that you don't hear a lot in like pop music, like needless to say, like it's a lot of it is just your typical diatonic harmony, which is nothing, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But it's so interesting to hear something that is so clearly influenced by like jazz and funk and disco that kind of like experiments a little bit with like harmony that's not like, expected, if that makes any sense.
Right.
Do I have any other stinkers? Actually, I didn't have a lot of stinkers. Because I feel like the ones that are stinkers I've already like addressed. There is a song called I Love My Country by Florida Georgia Line. And Florida Georgia Line, okay, all right, I'm going to do my prepared statement about country music. And it's going to offend so many people. And I'm going to lose so many friends. And people are going to like want to lynch me after this. All right, ready?
You'll be canceled.
Okay, this is my prepared statement. It's like parts of it I actually got while I was outside going out for a walk, and so that's what you mean. That's like that's when All right, here we go. Country music is like the film genre of body horror in a lot of ways, and not just in the obvious ways. Okay, body horror. Like if you watch a body horror film, it's a very low likelihood that you'll get like a good piece of cinema, like a Dead Ringers or like a The Fly. You're actually more likely to get something like Human Centipede, which is just like gratuitous and offensive and dumb, right? And that's basically how I feel about country music, is that very rarely and very refreshingly you do get good stuff, and it is very refreshing. Like 16 horsepower, I'm not sure. I think 16 Horsepower are defunct now. Or like even like more well-known contemporary artists like Vince Stapleton, who I mean I don't really fuck with, but I acknowledge that they are definitely coming from a more sincere place. Florida Georgia Line is like Human Centipede. In fact, I would say that I'm going to henceforth rename country music to body horror music, because I feel like I might as well watch somebody's face get stitched to somebody else's asshole and then actually listen to another second of Florida Georgia Line, especially the hip hop fusion. So as far as body horror music goes, it's a but the funny thing is that this song is not like the worst of Florida Georgia Line. It's actually funny enough, it actually leans more towards but it's still a stinker. Like Florida Georgia Line, like just they don't make anything particular. Like it's pandering, like the Bo Burnham song. It's it's 4-chord pap. It's like it references beer. This is what I feel about a lot of pop country, especially contemporary pop country. If I wrote a parody song of country music, then there would not be a lot of degrees of difference between that and stuff that is actually passed off as contemporary country. And that's
body
it.
horror.
Yeah, body horror music. That's my prepared statement. If you have any questions, please refer to my lawyer. I'll be going into hiding now. So you won't be able to find me. I'll have a different social insurance number. And yeah, bye.
Well, speaking of sewing a mouth to an asshole, talk about a stinker. I don't have any more stinkers. Not really any to talk about either, other than I have a list of a few that I'm not going too deep in, but that were good for what they were, kind of things. So we already talked a bit about The Weeknd, the Blinding Lights song. I'd call that a banger. I can picture it in a young adult TV show. And I think that's a high compliment. I don't mean that ironically or anything. Like that would be like I can picture it being like in media and stuff. It's a good tune.
Yeah.
I heard a song called "Hot Girl Bummer," which I feel like would be a good TikTok anthem. "Truth Hurts" by Lizzo. I've heard a few songs by Lizzo now, and I think she's very good. I think she.
I have to get into Lizzo, yeah, but I hear she's good.
I watched a video where I can't remember what her name is, but it's a girl that plays bass, and she sort of did a cover of a Lizzo song, which is the first time I heard Lizzo. But she definitely like added a lot more to the bass line that made it technically better than the original song. But Lizzo does have good music, so I've been enjoying some of her songs here and there.
Yeah, I actually have a lot of bangers because and I love that you thank you for bringing that up, because that reminds me that I want to get into Lizzo properly, because the only one that I've listened to is her like big ass song, no pun intended, and I can't remember what it's called now. Fuck.
It's not Truth Hurts.
Maybe.
The other one I heard was I think it's called Juice.
Juice, that's the one.
Yeah, that's actually the one that I heard the bass line with it.
No. Actually, that's funny because first of all, I think Juice is a fucking great song. Yeah. And now, thank you for reminding me, because that's. I mean, if I had not, if you hadn't mentioned it, I probably would have forgot. But that is a banger. Like
that one
unabashedly.
Of pop music of the present day, that one's probably the best pop song I've heard in a couple of years.
Yeah, Adam Neely did a jazz reharmonization, and I love that. Like, Adam Neely is cool. I find his arrangements to be a little dense sometimes. Like, not dense as in like stupid, but like dense as in like actually dense. But I mean, like, still a lot of respect for the guy, and he's like wickedly talented bass player. But he did a jazz reharmonization. I think that's how I figured out. Like, that's how I initially was introduced to the song. And then I went back and actually listened to the song in its entirety. And yeah, it does slap. It goes.
Yeah, it definitely slaps. Do you have any other bangers?
I actually have many. Most of the songs are actually bangers. So this is going to be a very optimistic. Other than the trash I just talked about, country music.
Body horror.
rather than trash talking what is now the body horror genre, most of this is going to be pretty optimistic, and it's going to be very praiseworthy of the pop genre or pop purview. The song Everything I Wanted by Billie Eilish is probably either number one or number two. It's just like a really well done song. It's one of the more, like we were talking about songs with more minimal production. All of Billie Eilish's music is produced by her brother Phineas, and he has a particularly interesting production style as well. And the reason why I wanted to talk about it was because it reminded me of something that you used to do, or maybe still do, I don't know, with your music, and that you would sample like everyday objects in order to get like percussive sounds. And in almost every of Billie Eilish's hit singles, he does that. Like, for example, I believe in this song, I'm not sure what he does for the percussion, but I know that in Bad Guy, he samples, I believe it's a match like going off. He samples a stoplight, like one of those like he samples one of those like stoplights like weight like ticks in, I think it was Australia, in order to get a hi-hat sound for I think it was Bad Guy. But he samples a lot of interesting stuff, and sometimes it's like actually apropos the content of the music. So I think there's a part in one of the songs that's about burning something or like fire, and that's when he samples the matches, which I thought is kind of cool.
That's clever.
But the snare for this one does not sound like a snare. It's definitely something that's sampled. And when I say this one, I'm talking about Everything I Wanted. Now, Billie Eilish, I would not necessarily characterize her music as dance music. It's very kind of minimal. It's like, it's electro pop, but not like dance pop. At least not like, club music like Dua Lipa. What I do like is that in this song in particular, Everything I Wanted, there's a piano line, and it kind of ducks out every now and then. And the reason is because there's like a something called a side chain, which in music production is where you tie the response, like the volume of something. I'm just gonna try and do it simply. Like, it has a lot to do with compressors and shit, but it's where you tie the volume of something to the volume of something else. So when a kick drum kicks, everything else kind of ducks. That's something called side chaining, and you hear that a lot in dance music. And in this particular instance, you hear it like right out of the gate with the piano line. And I thought it's really effective because the whole song, the song is about having a dream in which you commit suicide. And in the actual music video, they drive into the ocean. And in the artwork for the single, it's an artistic rendering of the Golden Gate Bridge, which is like a big like suicide zone, I guess you could say. And a lot of the stuff a lot of the lyrical content is reflected by the production, which is the technique called prosody. When she says, I think there's a part where she's saying something underwater, there's a reverb and a filter attached to that where it sounds like her voice kind of goes underwater, which is really cool. Like, you hear prosody a lot, like Shot Through the Heart, I think uses prosody, like it's Shot Through the Heart, bang, like with the snare, where the snare is used to, obviously mimic a gun in this case. And I think that's really cool because when you hear it done well, it actually does add to the experience of the song. And there's a lot of that in the song where the production like just works so well with the themes of the song itself. I've totally bought the hype when it comes to Billie Eilish, and I really love like watching how a lot of her songs are produced. And that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I've not listened properly to Billie Eilish, just the I think Bad Guy and then a couple other ones, and the one for the James Bond movie that she did.
Yeah. That's crazy, eh? I mean, like, she was, like, pretty successful. Like, she was, like, well-known. Like, she had a several 100,000 subscribers on YouTube prior to her going big. And she was, like, 14 when she released her first, like, big single, which was Ocean Eyes.
Yeah.
And so like 14 years old, like that's ridiculous. And her brother produced that song as well, and he was quite young at the time as well. So he's like a ridiculous talent as well. And she's now like 18 years old, and she's already got like like 5 Grammy Awards, several songs that have been like #1. Holy shit. Like it's I think it's a good time because like I feel like her, like Lorde and like Charlie XCX as well, she could like really develop her style into something unique now that she has like a little more name recognition.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we've pretty much exhausted the bangers and stinkers segment. Did you want to go to the next segment?
Is that the SoundCloud?
Yeah. So do you want to go ahead? I just talked like a long time about Billie Eilish. So
yeah. I've just got 2 SoundCloud users for the shout out here. So the first one is Kaylee95, Kaeli 95. She sort of does like a singer songwriter-y type stuff, but it's kind of some of her tracks have more of a like alternative rock or even electronic influence in it. But at the core are well-written songs. A couple specific songs that I recommend are What Happened to the Music and Wife My Mind. So she's a pretty cool SoundCloud musician. And the other one, it's called Broken Lamps. And they do sort of almost music that sounds like it's from like 1970s films.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, like that one is probably, of recent SoundCloud accounts I found, that's probably one of the cooler ones. So one of the ones I recommend is Halls of Time. It sounds like if it, for some reason it reminded me if Beck made a song for a movie that sort of has that retro 70s vibe to it. I don't think any of his tracks have lyrics to it. They're mostly like instrumental stuff. But yeah, I really enjoyed that. Broken Lamps.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out because that's like right up my alley too. That's like my kind of shit. Was that all the ones that you wanted to shout out?
Yep, just the 2.
Excellent. All right, I've got 2 here. I'm just going to do 2. I'm going to talk about them kind of very briefly, just an overview. One of them is my friend Shane. He's actually a friend of mine that I used to work with when we used to work at a grocery store.
Actual friend of the show.
Yeah, real friend of the show. Hopefully we can get him on at some point. He's doing pretty well already, but I mean, like, I feel like even so, he deserves a lot more recognition. Like, I can see this guy, actually making it big time. He just has a natural talent for production. It's an electronic music. A lot of it is down tempo, but a lot of it is more up tempo as well. The genres that he has on there they're just called wave right now. He's on a record label. I think it's just a web label called Resurgence, I think. And the music is just incredible. Like it's perfectly produced. He actually a lot of the stuff before I went to college for audio engineering. He actually taught me a lot of stuff like about how compressors work and limiting and different. He probably taught me about sidechaining as well. Fantastic. He has an album, Ethereal, that is this a track or is this an album? It's just a track. He has his most recent track is called Ethereal. It came out in February, and it's spectacular. 2 of his albums that I own that have become like classics to me, like that I regularly listen to, are Lava Lamp, which is a down-tempo album with a lot of interesting textures and samples, and also The Watcher, which is it almost sounds a little more poppy. And then the one that he bought most recently is a track that I bought most recently, was a track called Ethereal. So that's Shane, Planet V. So if you go to, we'll link all this. If we do it on YouTube, we'll put it down in the description box, or if we do it on SoundCloud, we'll put it in the info section. But so that's Planet V. The other one is Darkmatternebula. Now this is a bit different. It's a industrial artist. It's very noisy, textured sounds. There's a lot of like dark ambience as well. But the percussion is just incredible. Like it's loud. And it does, a lot of it sounds like it's sampled from like real sounds. Even though a lot of it might be just like drum machines and stuff like that are layered with a lot of distortion. But I don't know. I feel like these songs could be, instrumentals for like a Nine Inch Nails or like a Coil or something like that. They're just perfectly bleak and like dark. And funny enough, the album is called Bleak.
Appropriately named.
Yeah, and it's by Darkmatternebula, and cool stuff. I actually I found him on Mew as well. Mew being the 4chan board, because I just recently released an album. A little bit of self-plugging there, and I actually went on there just to try and get some plays. But yeah, it's pretty fun good. It goes.
It is a very good album that you have as well.
Oh, thank you.
I will also plug your album. Is it called A Living World?
It's called A Living World. I'm not sure if it's an album or an EP, or if it qualifies as an album, but
I will say that it is a worthwhile album.
Thanks, man.
I bought it on Bandcamp. I recommend other people buy it on Bandcamp.
Thank you very much.
There was one song, Low Light, and also VHS Experience.
Yeah. Okay.
Frozen Tears in Space as well was actually very... It sounded like someone suffocating in space, but in a really beautiful way.
Thank you. Yeah, that's... I actually just made that one randomly one day, and it sounded awful. Like, the first mix sounded just, like, terrible. Like, the synths were, like, too loud. You know, that's the one synth that kind of, like, is like a glissando. It was, like, way too loud. And so I, like, turned it, like, way the fuck down. And then, like, that opening sound, the that kind of... sculpture synth, well, the synth is called Sculpture, and I made my own synth out of it, was like way too fucking loud, and the levels were just like all over the place. There was like way too much mid, but so that one actually took me a lot of time to mix and master, but I think it turned out okay.
I thought it was really good.
VHS Experience, well, there's a lot of like bossa nova and samba influence in that one too, which is stuff that I've been listening to a lot of recently. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't want to talk too much about my own shit, but
yeah, I give it 5 out of 5 Gandalfs.
Nice.
The official review standard for the Spin This podcast.
Yeah, coming up out of the depths of my adolescent mind, back to life. We'll have to explain that at some point.
Yeah, at some point.
Yeah, but we'll leave it a mystery for now.
So, you got anything else? We good?
That's it.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for the first episode of the Spin This podcast. I've been Sam Dow,
and I'm Aiden Clare.
And thank you for listening. And you'll hear us next time. Thank you.
Perfect.